The Timaeus sort of gets it. The basic idea is that rather imagining the cosmos as either a sudden creation event or as an eternal existence, it arises as an evolving structure where form is being imposed on a chaos. It all starts from a confused everythingness, so confused in its expression that it amounts to a nothing. It lacks any orderly structure, and then that structure starts to appear.
With Plato, the structure is already final and familiar, as it comes from some transcendent realm of the good and the ideal. The sun, the stars, the planets, the cats, the dogs, the mice. These ideas exist as the eternal shapes of things, and these shapes are like cookie cutters to be impressed on matter as like some universal dough.
But my structuralism is more like Anaximander's Aporon and Heraclitus's unity of opposites. The structure is logical and evolutionary, counterfactual and dialectical, the symmetry breaking of a dichotomy. And so everything starts by identifying that first act of dichotomization that could start to organize a world. Anaximander's Apeiron sounds like a primal stuff, but it was more like the most primal state of unformed and unbounded potentiality. And the first symmetry breaking that started to organize it into a definite state of somethingness was this raw possibility starting to separate in two counterfactual directions. Just as a random fluctuation, some part of the Apeiron could start to grow a little warmer. But with counterfactual logic, that meant it had to leave some adjacent part of the Apeiron a little cooler. You get two for the price of one with this kind of logical symmetry breaking.
The cool naturally is damper, and the hot is naturally drier. So now we have also the appearance of wetness as the increasing absence of the dry, and the dry as the increasing absence of the wet. With everything becoming increasingly divided like this, you get the four elements emerging.
And you should be able to see how the Big Bang has the same symmetry-breaking metaphysics. In the beginning, there was just some generalized notion of a potential. Logically, there has to be at least the possibility of such a state of raw possibility because, well, here we are. And then it was broken by being divided against itself.
If you can account for that state, as perhaps a state of radical logical vagueness, Peirce's definition of that to which the PNC fails to apply, then you are starting to think about reality coming into existence not out of nothing, nor even out of an everythingness exactly, but something even less than that. Your favorite dichotomy is information entropy, order versus chaos, form versus matter, rules versus actions. So if you imagine that as the broken symmetry that had to develop out of some initial symmetry, how does that story go?
So the universe is in some ways almost completely symmetry broken, a really long way from its starting point of 10^32 Kelvin, and yet also still relentless growing and cooling. It can't arrive at its heat death until it gets right down to 10^30 Kelvin, presuming we can believe that dark energy sets this final limit on cosmic growing and cooling.
The Big Bang is based on CGH physics, a triad of constants, or the set of basic relations that defines the basic symmetry being broken, the way G stands opposed to H as the measures of what is the cooling relativistic container and what is its hot quantum contents.
And C is the measure of the rate at which everything is being moved apart while also remaining in causal connection. The rate at which this mixture of dimensionality and energy density is thermalizing. The Big Bang is also the tale of all the topological phase transitions that rapidly complexify the initial symmetry breaking. First, you get radiation that cools and spreads enough to condense into a fine dust of gravitating matter. The dust clumps into balls that under pressure catches fire, becomes stars powered by fusion. But it also can eventually exhaust itself. The Big Bang can become so spaced out and cooled down that it just runs out of puff. So the symmetry breaking that I have in mind is the dichotomization that takes forever to reach its own natural end.
So the symmetry breaking that I have in mind is the dichotomization that takes forever to reach its own natural end. The contrast that both grows and dilutes. It grows as it is driving itself apart in opposed directions. But that drive is also being sapped at a matching rate.
The result is a power law curve, a doubling halving trajectory that begins with a hot bang and ends with the coldest and emptiest whimper.